He walked into my office on a gray afternoon, his shoulders hunched forward, as if the world itself was pressing down on him. The clock ticked softly in the quiet room, and though I'd met hundreds of people in pain before, something about him was different. He looked fragile, yet there was a fire in his eyes, like a man caught between giving up and fighting one last time. "Ethan?" I asked, standing from my chair as he hesitated near the door. His name felt gentle on my tongue, though we had never spoken before today. He gave a small nod, his voice rough but soft.
"Yes."
I don't know if I should even be here." I smiled in the warmest way I knew how, the way I had practiced for years to ease broken hearts. "You're here, and that's enough. Please sit." He moved across the carpet slowly, his tall frame seeming so out of place in the delicate, cozy room I had designed to feel like safety. When he finally sat, he exhaled as though he had been holding his breath for days. His hands fidgeted together in his lap. "I don't even know what I want to say," he admitted, his eyes flicking up to meet mine for only a moment before darting away again. "Everything feels heavy." I leaned forward, resting my arms lightly on my desk, giving him the focus he needed. Sometimes we don't need the perfect words. Sometimes we just need someone to listen. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but a shadow of one. And in that moment, my heart did something it wasn't supposed to do. It stirred. I pushed it away. He was my patient. I was his doctor. There were rules. But as the days turned into weeks, Ethan returned again and again, each time bringing more of himself into the light. I learned about the heartbreaks that had scarred him, the betrayals that kept him awake at night, the loneliness that followed him even in crowded rooms. And slowly, something changed. At first, it was the way his eyes lingered on mine when our conversations fell silent. Then, it was the way his voice softened when he spoke to me, as though the walls he had built for everyone else crumbled the moment he entered this room. And I wasn't immune. His laugh, rare as it was, felt like sunlight breaking through the blinds. His presence filled the air until the office felt alive in a way it never had before. One evening, after the sun had dipped low and painted the city in shades of amber and violet, Ethan stayed behind longer than usual. He didn't leave when our session ended. Instead, he lingered, standing by the window, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Of course." "Do you ever feel like you're the only person who understands someone? Like maybe, without you, they'd fall apart?" The question wasn't clinical. It was personal. It pressed against the line neither of us had dared to cross. I stood slowly, walking toward him. "Yes," I whispered. When he turned to look at me, the fading light caught in his eyes, and something unspoken passed between us. A pull. A gravity that no rulebook could explain away. "Ethan," I started, but my voice trailed off. He stepped closer. Not enough to touch, but enough that I could feel the warmth of his body, the quiet rhythm of his breath. For a long moment, we just stood there, facing each other, the world outside forgotten. Then, as if neither of us could stop it, my hand lifted to his arm. Just a light touch, a bridge across the chasm we had carefully built. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. Instead, his hand rose to cover mine, holding it there against his sleeve. His fingers were trembling. Or maybe mine were. "I shouldn't feel this," he whispered. "Neither should I admitted, my voice breaking. And yet we stayed there. Two souls caught in a storm of rules and desires, unable to step back. The next time he came, the tension was unbearable. Every word we exchanged was charged, every silence heavier than the last. At one point, when I leaned forward to hand him a glass of water, our fingers brushed, and neither of us moved away. It was electric, a spark that lit something deep inside me. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I asked softly. "Because you're the only person who sees me," he replied. His honesty hit me harder than any confession ever could. And then, before I could think, before I could remind myself of the boundaries we were supposed to keep, I stood and closed the distance between us. My arms slipped around him, pulling him into me, not as a doctor, not as a savior, but as a woman who wanted nothing more than to hold him. He froze for a second. Then slowly, hesitantly, he melted into me, his arms circling my waist, his face burying against my shoulder. That hug was more intimate than anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't just bodies pressed together. It was two broken hearts stitching themselves whole in each other's warmth. When he finally pulled back, his hands stayed on my arms, his forehead resting against mine. We were so close, breaths mingling, hearts racing. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I leaned in, and our lips met. It was gentle at first, almost questioning, as though we were both afraid it would shatter us. But when the fear gave way, the kiss deepened, carrying with it all the longing we had hidden for weeks. I lost myself in it. In him, in the way his hands framed my face, the way he kissed me like I was air, and he had been drowning. When we broke apart, both of us were shaking. "This isn't supposed to happen," I breathed. "Maybe it was always supposed to happen," he said. And that night, everything changed. We no longer spoke in measured tones. We no longer sat apart. We embraced. We held on to each other as if letting go meant falling back into the darkness. There were stolen kisses between confessions, his hand brushing mine until I intertwined my fingers with his. There were nights when we stayed long after the world outside had gone to sleep, locked in each other's arms, sharing stories, laughter, and silences that spoke louder than words. He told me I made him feel alive again. I told him he made me feel human, not just a healer bound by walls. But love born in secret is never simple. One evening, as rain poured against the windows, Ethan looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "We can't hide this forever," he said. "I know. Then what do we do?" I hesitated, my heart twisting. "We stop pretending this is just therapy." His eyes softened. "So, what are we then?" I smiled through tears. "We're two people who found love in the most impossible place." He cupped my face, his thumb brushing away the tear. "Then let's not let it go." And we didn't. What began as stolen glances and hushed conversations turned into nights of deep love, of holding each other close, of intimacy that wasn't about desire but about healing, about finding home in another's arms. Every hug was a promise. Every kiss was a confession. Every moment we spent together was a reminder that sometimes the rules we fear breaking are the very ones keeping us from happiness. Our secret story became our truth. And though the world would never understand how it began, we knew that what we had was real, pure, unforgettable, because love doesn't ask for permission. It simply arrives, and when it does, you can't help but surrender. And so, from therapy to love, Ethan and I found something we both thought we had lost forever: each other.